like a near game. You're doing every playthrough. You're trying to see all the stories.
I'm
Absolutely.
on Betty Ford Plus, baby.
Hell yeah. Folks, welcome to Werewolf Radar, the world's premier paranormal preparedness podcast. My name is Jordan Dahl.
I'm Nate Baldwin.
My name, Roger Norquist.
Today's episode of Werewolf Radar is brought to you by Monstroco poison-free poison apples. Want the great taste of poison apples without any of the dying? Try Monstroco poison-free poison apples. Right next to the Monstroco poison apples in your Monstroco aisle today. Poison-free poison apples by Monstroco. What the fuck?
I have been looking for this. I can't tell you how long I've been searching for a poison-free poison apple. Like,
They're
I used
so
to eat them all the
tasty.
time as a kid, but my body can't take the poison now.
Yeah, I would eat the
it
poison
seems like in the
apples
80s, they kind of got rid of the poison-free poison apples.
because they tasted so good, but like, you would fall into a deep slumber every time you ate one and then, wake up surrounded by dwarves with some dude Frenching you. And
do you remember when they introduced crystal clear apple?
oh yeah, unbelievable.
I do.
It was such a flop, and it shouldn't have been.
Was that a Monstroco product too?
No, that was made by Monstroco's competitor, Divinorum. Mm-hmm.
The story deepens.
Right, I just expanded the lore by like 50% right there. What do we got for him this week? You know what? Can I take the skull first?
I think you need to, because you
me that
jumped into the
skull.
fucking group chat
With some
with
heat.
fire.
So this is going to be a new segment. Thank you for the speaking skull. Just blowing out the ear holes there. This is going to be a new segment that's called Jordan Has Had It. That's right. I'm authoring a new segment. I'm expanding the Monstroco lore. I don't give a fuck today. I'm freewheeling, baby. I was swearing in the Grave Nugget. You wouldn't believe the swears.
Oh,
I
yeah.
did.
The Grave Nuggets
Combo
are
swears.
rated because of Jordan's mouth. It's crazy.
Combo swear.
In Britain, it's an 18.
Mm-hmm. So this week, Jordan has had it with Dr. Steven Greer.
Take him
Steven
down.
M. Greer. You're in Jordan's fart corner.
I agree with this. The man's running a cult. He's tricked Demi Moore.
Yeah. So Steven Greer has come up.
It's not Demi Moore. Demi Lovato.
Thank you.
I mean, maybe Demi Moore. We don't know where she stands.
Yeah.
No,
on
but
astrological
for
things.
sure, I did mean Demi Lovato. Thank you.
Yeah. So if you're wondering who Steven Greer is, Steven Greer is a ufologist who comes up quite a lot on the show. We've sort of taken what a goofball road to things, but this week I'm putting him on blast. We're taking a stance. We do not like Steven Greer. This is from his Wikipedia page. Stephen Macon Greer, the M stands for Macon, by the way, is an American ufologist who founded the Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Science, CSETI, and the Disclosure Project, which they've done a lot of important shit. Greer was born in Charlotte, North Carolina, 1955. He claims he saw an unidentified flying object at close range when he was 8 years old. Let's look a little bit.
63 in Charlotte.
Well, then jump into the memory visualizer, Dr. Greer. Let's see this UFO.
He claims to have seen this UFO, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of kind of details on that encounter. But
And he might have. I'm not saying his personal experience was not that, but there's other reasons we go scoff at you.
Yeah. He claims he saw another UFO when he was 35. Greer was trained as a transcendental meditation teacher and served as director of a meditation organization. He received a BS degree. That's not a bullshit degree. That's a Bachelor of Science degree in biology from Appalachian State University in 1982, and an MD degree from the James H. Quillen College of Medicine in East Tennessee State University. Go frog possums. He received his Virginia medical license in 1989, worked as an emergency room physician, and in 1998 retired as a physician in favor of his ufology activities. So he was an emergency room physician for just under 9 years. When he was like, you know what? I'm out of here. I want Spaceman. His ufology career started in 1990 when he founded CSETI, which is a group that aims to create a diplomatic and research-based initiative to contact extraterrestrial civilizations. The group defined CE5, or Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, as human-initiated contact and communication with extraterrestrial life. CSETI claims to have over 3,000 confirmed reports of UFO sightings by pilots, over 4,000 of what they described as landing traces.
Ooh.
The organization utilizes quote unquote rapid mobilization investigation teams with the aim of arriving at landing sites as quickly as possible. CSETI has defined a protocol for human-initiated contact to UFOs using consciousness. So this is kind of where we come in. CSETI offers these like seminars where you can go and hang out with Steven Greer and ask him questions and attend like a meditation in the desert scenario, because he claims that a lot of his contact, quote unquote, with extraterrestrials is psychic, and that is how you get them to come to you, is by contacting them psychically, and it won't be done with radios. It will be done with the human mind. So, in knowing this, I stumbled across a Reddit thread the other day that was titled "The Truth About Steven Greer." And it was asking our UFO community what they thought about Steven Greer. And the question is thus: I have been watching a number of interviews with this guy recently, and I'm wondering if the community has reached a consensus on whether or not he's a fraud. I know plenty of people are convinced he's a con artist. I'm wondering what evidence is available that could lead us to either conclusion. I legit want to try and establish a clear case for either side of the argument for myself and anyone else who's exposed to him. If he is truly a lying, exploitative criminal, then I want to have enough evidence listed here to irrefutably establish that. If anyone has any evidence that suggests that he's legit, then that needs to be heard as well. And by far, the number one comment is by someone called Meta-Minded Mystery. It was posted 1 day ago as of recording.
I noticed Dr. Greer saying a lot of cold reading nonsense that you scam people with. He's telling you that the alien contact can be done yourself. That eventually, if you follow him and give him money, he can lead us all towards a better future with new technologies that solve all of our problems that the current system is keeping down.
Secrets.
And that's when I was all like, this is a cult.
So this is a post by Meta-Minded Mystery, and this says, during his CSETI workshop, I was dismayed at the real Dr. Greer. November 15th, 2009, by Knowledge Seeker on
the fake Dr. Greer, on the other hand, still fabulous.
This is all a quote. I followed Dr. Greer's activities with enthusiasm since 2001 when he established the Disclosure Project. I read his books, watched his interviews, and listened to his meditation CDs. I liked everything the man seemed to be about and shared his views on the need to inform the public about the presence of extraterrestrial visitors on Earth, the importance of establishing peaceful contact with these visitors, and a backup plan for hiding all of our cats from them, because as Alf showed us, aliens love to eat cats. Just kidding.
Dude,
seeing if you're paying attention. In developing free or low-cost over Unity energy technologies that would clean the planet is something that Greer wants to do. He also wants to eliminate conflict between nations and bring about a dignified quality of life and abundance to people all over the world. I still share these goals, says Knowledge Seeker. So it was with great excitement that I signed up for a CSETI presentation and a one-day workshop with Dr. Greer that took place on November 13th and 14th in 2009 in Costa Mesa, California. Beautiful, sunny Costa Mesa, California, to experience and learn CSETI's contact protocol and to determine whether it would be worthwhile enrolling in a week-long CSETI outing with Dr. Greer. Which sounds like a nightmare, just knowing what's coming.
I'm going to go see how much that is.
Okay, so it was with great. Surprisingly, my preconceived opinion about Dr. Greer's character began to disintegrate as I listened to his presentation. It was disheartening to discover he is excessively fascinated with himself, prone to indulge in name dropping and in bragging about his fantastic, quote, high end and or in the know contacts and connections, not to mention the multitude of outlandish remarks he makes with a straight face, such as his impact on the rogue majestic secret government. so much so that
you're telling me this guy's a narcissist.
Yeah. So much so that was also a huge one of the main reviews of his a documentary just came out on Netflix called Encounters of the Fifth Kind or something. One of the main reviews was like, this dude fucking sucks. So much so that, according to him, he rejected a $2 billion payout to shut up and abandon ET disclosure.
How much?
$2 billion with a B. He doesn't need it.
Yeah, with that much money, you can buy a media and really get the word out.
You could buy an army of.
I feel at Lovato. 1 billion. Yeah, at 1 billion, no one can stop you, let alone 2 billion.
Yeah. That's $1 billion for you just to fuck around with, Greer. Liar. Needless to say, that night, I left the auditorium less than enthusiastic about what Dr. Greer is all about. But it was not until the workshop and the outing the next day that my opinion about him really changed, unfortunately, for the worst. Again, during the workshop, Dr. Greer devoted some time to self-admiration while attempting to appear humble by saying, quote, I'm just a country doctor from North Carolina. By then...
Does he really say that?
He does. By then, I was becoming quite uncomfortable about him, but as the workshop progressed, my discomfort turned into dismay as I watched how rudely he treated some attendees who asked valid questions or made harmless remarks, but whose timing or subject he deemed quote-unquote inappropriate. I was truly shocked and could not believe my ears as I watched him lash at them with such scornful contempt. It was so bad I wondered if this man was consciously trying to chase these people away. Dr. Greer claims to have experienced meditative samadhi or oneness with all. If so, one would think he would have achieved a certain degree of enlightenment and a sense of kinship toward his fellow man. Why then was he so harsh and unkind? Did he forget these people paid a significant amount of money not only to listen but to ask questions as well? I think I have a theory why. Because he's a bad liar and dumb and bad. Well, not dumb. He's got a medical degree.
You can still be dumb.
But
anyone can get a medical degree.
It was from like fucking Coney Island School of Medicine or something.
Yeah. I'm going to go check out those schools too, and we'll see if Werewolf Radar can get our medical doctorate by next week.
The worst and most disheartening part of this experience was witnessing the CSETI's field contact protocol. At the site, a number of devices such as radio transmitter, magnetometer, radar detectors, infrared scope, etc. were arranged. Even though I don't doubt Dr. Greer may have had several ET experiences in the past, what I observed in the field that night is inconsistent with his hyperbolic claims suggesting he can vector ETs and make them appear. His actions and the facts demonstrated that at the very least, this is a bold exaggeration. Not surprisingly, to cover up for this assertion, Dr. Greer made sure to bring out a series of possibilities for a, quote, no-show prior to the field excursion. According to him, sometimes the ETs might not appear because, quote, there is someone in the group without good intent and a clean heart.
Nice.
That
That'd
man's
be me.
name is Dr. Greer.
And me. I'm trying to fuck him.
The ETs feel threatened by the U.S. military, might also be a reason they might not show up. Or even though they won't fully materialize, they will manifest in 1,000 other ways. So he's already setting up for disappointment. But he already has their money. And he already bought cocaine with it.
35,000 or 3,500 is the ticket.
Oh, honestly, less than I thought. Conveniently, there were plenty of people at hand, mostly staff, who would come forward to state that while meditating, they saw this or heard that. Most amusing, though, were Dr. Greer's remarks at the beeps and sounds made by his electronic equipment. You see, according to him, an ET he named Walter communicates via one of these electronic devices, and Dr. Greer is able to recognize which beeps he makes.
Oh, it sounds like the R2 unit.
Yeah. Additionally, the large quantity of wow and oh my God remarks coming out of Dr. Greer's mouth over unseen or imaginary non-events was sadly hilarious.
Man, I'm so sorry for this guy. Like, you were a believer, and I'm glad that you had your eyes open to the situation, but this had to have hurt.
It's important to see people for the bullshit artists that they are, even when they're telling you things that you want to hear, perhaps especially when they're telling you things that you want to hear. And
I'm glad he was able to see the hilarity in this situation as Dr. Greer goes, oh, did you hear that beep? Yeah. That's Harold.
Oh, Santa's coming. Everybody get in your sleeping bags. Oftentimes he would point his mega laser beam at some point in the sky and claim he was seeing a partly materialized ET craft. Of course, anyone else saw nothing, even though, according to him, many significant events were taking place that night because, quote, we were such a great group. To make matters worse, Dr. Greer supplemented the lack of any occurrence with information he received via, quote, remote viewing. I found this charade insulting to my intelligence, intuitiveness, and psychic sensibilities. I know ETs were not present that night, and I would have respected Dr. Greer if he had been forthright and acknowledged the fact that there was no activity. I would understand. It happens. Because I experienced firsthand Dr. Greer's tendency to fabricate, exaggerate, embellish non-events at the SETI field trip, it follows that with accuracy and validity of everything he claims in his books is in question. It then follows that the accuracy and validity of everything he claims in his books is in question, since it's evident that at the very least, he stretches the truth to the point where it becomes nothing short of a straight line, nothing short of an outright lie. In the past, whenever I would read negative reviews about Dr. Greer, especially ones describing him as a self-centered narcissist, I would reject them and conclude that they were made by people who couldn't handle the truth. But based on what I saw and experienced firsthand, it appears Dr. Greer is in love with himself. And because he sees above all else, himself above all others, he dislikes most people. However, he desperately craves attention, so he created this ET disclosure platform to attract as large an audience as possible in order to obtain the recognition and adulation he sorely needs. In essence, regardless of the message, this messenger is so flawed one must question the purity and true nature of his motivations. His book conferences and CSETI outings may be more about the money they bring than the message itself.
Look, if you can't make friends, fleece them.
Yeah. Yeah. Update 12/4/2009. In a letter sent to Dr. Greer, CIA Director James Woolsey, his wife Suzanne, and two others refute Dr. Greer's claims regarding his alleged, quote, briefing to them. To read his letter in its entirety, please Google Greer Woolsey UFO watchdog. well, there's that.
Wow, taking him down. You've had enough.
So I've had enough. Jordan's had enough with
This
Dr.
guy's had
Steven
enough.
M. Greer, and also, most importantly, Knowledge Seeker in the Amazon review has had enough. So there you go. The truth is out. Unabashed D-bag from beyond the stars.
Would you like to hear the short email?
Sure.
That someone, so here's the Reddit post. You Google what he said, which was, what was it again? It was Greer Woosley UFO watchdog. A Reddit page comes up called Dr. Greer sounded full of shit, so I emailed former CIA director R. James Woosley, and here is his reply.
Wow.
You can apparently still email high-ranking members of government agencies. And it reads, Dear Mr. Blank, Dr. Greer is not telling the truth. See attached 1999 letter regarding a small dinner party in 1993. Also, I know of no meeting between Dr. Greer and President Clinton with respect to this subject. Please feel free to share this letter and the 1999 letter with anyone including any website that discusses such matters.
That's
signed. So, it is signed R. James Woosley. And if you Google that, which is once again Greer Woosley UFO watchdog, you can see the letters, and it's denied. What fun you brought us! Thank you, Jordan.
I thought you were going to give us a short version of the letters.
That was the letter.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, that's it for Greer. Get him out of here. Out of here, Greer.
Oh, I'm sorry. I know what you meant. No, I'm gonna actually link that letter on our Discord and I'll share it on the Twitter.
I see.
It's a little bit longer, but it's hilarious.
Well, that does it for my segment. Jordan has had it with Steven M. Greer. And who would like the speaking skull next?
Do you want to roll it this way, and we'll
roll it that way.
Roll. Catch. I'm rolling with it. Nice.
So we're gonna take a little trip over to Maryland to talk about a specific goat man. There are, of course, many goat men out there.
We're back in the goat corner.
We're back in Goat's Corner.
Goat country.
This is from an article from a little while ago, but these things are evergreen, really. From the Washingtonian, the goat man, or his story at least, still haunts Prince George's County. There are so many variations on the story of the Prince George's County goat man that it's nearly impossible to keep them straight. For some, he is but a lonely, angry goat herder who went berserk after finding his beloved goats dead due to teens tampering.
Teens.
And you're tampering.
I tried to find what that actual story is. Apparently, it's an indigenous tale of a goat herder named Okiku.
No.
Although Oki also might be the personification of evil inhabiting the goat herder after a bunch of kids murder his flock.
I mean, what more do you need? It's that's that explanation has everything.
Yeah. To others, he's in the same family as Bigfoot. I don't think so.
The Foot family.
In perhaps the most bizarre tale of them all, the goat man is the result of a ghastly experiment at the Beltsville Research Agricultural Center.
I think you said a gas leak at first. It's like, wow, some fucking gas leak.
This one I did find a little more on. A little moron found it. It's from scarystudies.com. Background of the Goatman story. The year was 1970 and the setting was the seemingly innocuous Beltsville Agricultural Research Center. Legend Legend has it that an enthusiastic researcher decided to carry out some less than savory experiments on goats.
Enthusiastic. Man, I'm just fucking pumped about goats these days.
Like, what's their limits?
Wrong.
What can they go through? What can they take?
Zip.
Something went wrong during the experiment, and the researcher transformed into a hideous creature with the grotesque upper body of a goat. Another version of the origin stories talks about Stephen Fletcher, a doctor who supposedly used goat DNA to experiment on his assistant, William Lotsford.
How you enjoying your lunch, Lotsford? Yeah, does it taste funny? Does it taste like somebody slipped some goat mutagen in there, maybe? Oh no, it's fine. Oh God, he loves it. He loves it. Look at him. He loves it.
Anyway, back to the Washingtonian article. The goat man terrorizes lovers, chases teens, and decapitates dogs.
Whoa.
He yells, squeals, and yes, makes goat noises. He's made reported appearances all across the region. He has inspired fear and fascination for decades, but according to historian and author, I think they said author and Mark Obsasnik.
Oh.
There is a canonical Goatman origin story, and it begins on Fletchertown Road in Bowie. The first media mention of the Goatman came on October 27th, 1971, in the Bowie-based Prince George's County News. In the article, writer Karen Hosler took a deep dive into the University of Maryland folklore archives. She mentions the Goatman along with the ghosts and something called the Boa Man that also haunts the woods around Fletcherton Road.
Jeez, now I want to know about the Boa Man.
He's a man with the legs of a man.
With the legs of a snake.
And the torso of a fish.
Man. And he wraps his strong arms around you, and it feels so good and safe.
Yes. They call him the lover of the river.
2 weeks later, Hostler wrote another newspaper article with the headline, "Residents Fear Goatman Lives. Dog Found Decapitated in Old Bowie."
Oh boy.
The article described the search of a family, the Edwards, for their missing puppy, Ginger. Days later, Ginger was found near Fletchtown Road, dead and headless.
Covered in goat burns.
The article connected the deceased dog with the Goatman, saying that a group of teenage girls, including the Edwards' 16-year-old daughter, April, had heard strange noises and seen a large creature on the night the dog had disappeared. It also reported that sightings of an animal-like creature that walks on its hind legs were increasing along the Fletcherton Road.
That means they had a base level of sightings already. And this is unusual for the season.
7 or 8 times a week. On November 30th, I mean, that's, global warming, man. The cryptids are going to be flushed out into the open.
If they're cold, you're cold. If you're cold, they're cold.
On November 30th, the Goatman got its first introduction to a larger audience thanks to the Washington Post.
Way to go, Washington Post.
Maybe this democracy should have died in darkness.
Okay.
First, they uncover the Watergate scandal. Now, an article headlined, "A legendary figure haunts remote Prince George's woods," which identified the young men who found Ginger: Ray Hayden, John Hayden, and Willie Gein. The Prince George's County Police are also quoted in the piece saying that, quote, "The legend just gets passed on from generation to generation, and that they've been receiving more recent calls about Goatman sightings." Obsasnik grew up mere miles from Bowie in Greenbelt and remembers very clearly the first time he heard the Goatman legend. He was in 7th grade in the backseat of his friend's older brother's car. We would get rides. When we would act up in the backseat, they would tell us to shut the hell up or they'll dump us on the Fletcherton Road and the Goatman will get us.
And then they did. And the Goatman got one of my friends.
He became enamored of the story. While attending Roosevelt High, Obsasnik and his friends would go Goatman hunting. In fact, searching for the monster had become a local teen obsession. Obsasnik describes Goatman parties on Fletchertown Road and nearby Crybaby Bridge on Lotsford Road. That's a whole other thing that I might cover. Crybaby Bridge is insane.
Goatman parties.
Yeah.
Yep. The article says that sound like something out of Dazed and Confused.
Nice.
Halloween night 1979 was one of the craziest nights of my life, Obsasnik says.
Oh. Goatmen were flowing that night, bros.
Dr. Barry Pearson is a professor of folklore in the English department at the University of Maryland and was in charge of the aforementioned University of Maryland Folklore Archives. Even today, he says, if I mention the Goatman on the first day of class, all the locals know exactly what I'm talking about. Pearson thinks the legend of the Goatman was influenced by car culture in the 60s and 70s, which gave teens the freedom to discover the world around them. It might also be tied to what students were learning about Greek culture and the half-man, half-goat god Pan in school. Because you know how
in high school, I was so into Pan.
You get into Pan, you start getting into Caliban.
Next thing you know, you're into Caliban.
Trying to float the river Styx.
Yeah. I've seen it 1,000 times.
Certainly the newspaper accounts helped. And goats are, kind of freaky anyway. Goats are known to be smelly and sometimes kind of charming, but if you look at them closely, especially in their eyes, they're really scary in their own way.
Yeah, they've got those weird eyes.
Dude, they're ungovernable.
That's what you fear about the goat.
The movie Witch, remember? There's that goat.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
The director has given multiple interviews in which he has stated that never work with a goat. A goat, you cannot teach a goat. You cannot train a goat. The goat will not listen. The goat will just be a goat.
The goat is firmly in charge.
Pretty much.
Forget that.
They're nature's demon.
In 1987, Obsasnik started writing for Strange Magazine and wasted no time getting to the Goatman. In 1994, he wrote what he thinks was the first thoroughly researched piece about the legend, titled On the Trail to the Goatman. Well, he took fucking, 7 years to get there. That seems like a while. I wouldn't say wasted no time. He would later expand the article into a chapter for his book. That book, by the way, The Real Story Behind the Exorcist.
Oh.
Retails for $100 used paperback on Amazon.
Jesus
I tried to find it.
Christ.
I was just going to use that chapter.
Good
but
for you, sir. Good for you.
It is not out there. He tracked down the Edwards family and the men who found Ginger. John Hayden told Obsasnik he and the others had seen an animal the night before. It was about 6 feet tall, walked on 2 feet, and was hairy. Hayden also noted that it made a high-pitched sound like a squeal. Obsasnik was also able to speak with April Edwards, Ginger's owner. People came here and called it folklore, and the papers made us out to be ignorant hillbillies who didn't know any better, Edwards said. But what I saw was real, and I know I'm not crazy. Whatever it was, I believe it killed my dog.
Wow.
Mark Obsasnik does not believe the Goatman exists. I can't believe in something until I see it with my own eyes, he says. He feels bad saying that because he genuinely believes that the people he's talked to saw something. I mean, anything is possible in this world, he says. Maybe there is a half-man, half-animal creature out there. So that's the end of that article. But I want to tell you, you know who does believe in the Goatman?
Chris Pratt.
Robin Williams, and that's why he died.
Yeah, well, he might have died from Goatman.
This is too much.
There's a thing I found called Father Joe's Scary Stories.
Okay. Nice.
Father Joe got into a whole long Goatman thing too, but I'm just going to tell you about the end of it because Father Joe fucking postscript. Who are the real goat men? My faith mandates that I make a qualification to these remarks. I would argue that such creatures do exist, and that they are truly monsters of the worst possible sort.
Whoa.
They are not restricted to Prince George's County. Indeed, they coexist with us as a secret society. These goat men, and I must quicken to add goat women, do not possess horns, at least none that we can see. But still they are kin to Satan. Unlike the local fables, they are not the end product of either science or nature, but of supernature. They constitute that other city which has been repudiated throughout the centuries and most brilliantly discussed by St. Augustine of Hippo. It is a legion which lies to itself and to all others. Pardon me.
You got this, Nate. Don't die.
Is a legion which lies to itself and to all others. Their allegiance is only to themselves, and then only when it is profitable and or pleasurable. They have no immediate concern for judgments against them, but they are a parasitical, hedonistic community enraptured by proximate goods and ends.
Wow.
Unlike the poor old men who were harassed for their peculiarities and who are really a threat to no one. Earlier, he mentions a couple of guys who were like just backwoodsmen.
I gotta say, goat party's starting to sound cooler and cooler.
These other goat people are all murderers. True to the mythic symbolism of the horned goat, they are the ultimate manipulators. Well versed with pretense, they have stifled genuine charity both in their hearts and in their daily operation. They become more and more beasts and less human. Compounding the problem, they are all plague carriers of a lethal contagion called sin. A poison which, if left untreated, results in the death of souls.
That's where it comes from.
You know what? This guy wouldn't like how much porn I look at.
No,
or maybe he would. And then he'd have to cut off his own penis.
Yeah, maybe there's a certain type of porn that's just fine.
Yeah, goat porn.
So there you've got the opinion of a local semi-famous folklorist saying you got to have evidence, and then Father Joe, nope, secret society of demonic entities.
Here's your evidence. I got your evidence right here,
spreading
Jack.
sin throughout the world.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the end of that segment.
Wow, wait.
I guess we'll call it what? Meat goat.
Meat goat black. Meet Joe Goat.
Good name. I'm not gonna lie, it's gonna be better than the name that I come up with for my segment.
I like your names.
All right. Well, go long for the passing of the skull.
I'm running.
Oh, it's spiraling. It's spiraling. It's whistling like a Nerf whistle skull. Oh, you nailed it. Oh,
perfect.
Caught it with his own skull.
It's on my head now, but it's giving me the power to speak like I've never spoke before.
The gift of gab.
Through two mouths.
So I was looking up creepy shrines.
Creepy shrimp.
And an article came up from All About Japan.
Oh.
Entitled Japan's 8 Creepiest Shrines and Temples.
Whoa, cool.
And there was some good ones on there.
Shrine me down, you crazy clown.
You have Oiwa Inari Tamira Shrine in Tokyo.
It's a good one. Good scary shrine.
Has tons of ghost stories.
It's packed with ghosts.
There's tons of tragic ones in which a pure and faithful woman was married to a terrible man who killed her in order to marry a richer woman.
Oh, man.
How else are you going to get out of that marriage?
There is the one with the self-mummified monks.
Whoa.
Oh.
Now, is a shrine kind of the equivalent of a church in Japan?
No, because the shrines are in temples, sometimes not. It kind of is like an altar. There's a lot of shrines that have like full structure, like a building around them.
Right.
I think it's probably a mistranslation into English, and we just have shrine versus a clearer distinction.
Sure.
Right.
But it's more of like an altar, or like it's like a save point.
Yeah,
it's a save point. You have little shrines, you got buildings, you got the self-mummified monks, like all save points have.
Right.
The two that really stood out for me, and this is a quick little one on the least interesting one, but it's pretty fucking interesting. The bloody temple ceilings in Kyoto.
Yeah. See, even the least interesting haunted shrine is going to be pretty interesting at the end of the day.
Kyoto is a favorite for anyone interested in Japanese history, but imagine you're walking in a quiet temple in Kyoto, and you look up and you see a bloody footprint.
Well, up on the ceiling? Terrifying.
On the ceiling.
Has Lionel Richie been up there dancing?
Okay. He's been dancing too much.
Bloody
feet right off.
Bloody ceilings can be found at different locations in Kyoto.
What a feeling.
The Yoji-in Temple near Sanju Sanjindo, and Kenko-on Temple north of Bokyo University. The Hosen-in Temple in the northern vision of Harara.
All right. All
these places have a fair share of bloody footprints and handprints on their walls and ceilings.
Right.
The thing they have in common, wood from Fushimi Castle.
Cursed wood.
In which in 1600 was the site of a very gruesome battle in which the Tokugawa side
shogunate
of the shogunate wars, suffered a epic loss, and all the remaining Tokugawa men had to commit ritual suicide.
Whoa. Damn, that'll make for a haunted castle.
Hell yeah. But the one that stood out to me, because I have a thing for dolls.
Not in a bloodborne way.
Is the Okiku doll.
Oh.
At Maninji Temple.
Wow. Japanese Annabelle.
Yes.
We got a Japanese Annabelle on our hands here. Japanabelle.
But from the article I'm pulling from Ghost City, Old City Ghosts, Okiku, the Japanese haunted doll that puts Chucky to shame.
Oh, God.
Throwing shots.
Take that, Chucky. Although I've heard the new Chucky show is really good.
It's really funny. It's super campy. Nice. I recommend it.
So in 1918, a young man purchased the doll that would later on claim the name of Okiku as her own for his 2-year-old sister, and the legend
dog.
or his 2-year-old dog, who loved dolls, by the way. If you don't buy your dog a doll, you're a monster.
What are you even doing out here?
Now, Japan during this era was still stuck in the ways of feudalism. While the world around her was embracing the process of technology and science, Japan was holding tight to her beliefs, spelled with the V in this, and to her rich mythology and fables. This was a land, and still is by all accounts, where demons, ghosts, vampires, and other creatures roam free.
Wait.
A land where goblins and evil spirits constantly harass normal folk.
Well, shit, let's get over
there. I do want to go to Japan. I was seeing Sam's photos of there, and I was like,
fucking cool.
How much do I need to save up?
Oh, all of it?
All of it. I see. Well, maybe we'll win the lottery. Anyway, on February 3rd, It says you drove evil spirits away by going to shrines and through rituals and folklore practices.
Okay.
Apparently, they're called Setsubon events.
Setsubon.
Lake monsters gobbled up kids. Woods like the northwest, the woods of the northwest Mount Fuji drove people insane and compelled them to commit suicide.
Whoa, that's
Okigara. That's how you pronounce it. Foxes were sacred and devoted animals. So this doll was bought in Sapporo by a 17-year-old Aikachi Suzuki for his 2-year-old sister, Okiku. He was touring the region for a maritime expedition, and the doll instantly drew his eyes. The perfect little thing sat on a shop window, enticing him. Suzuki didn't think twice.
Hello.
He went in, instantly purchased the figurine for his sister, used the last of his money for it.
I didn't even get a hotel that night. My sister's got to have it.
At about 40 centimeters tall and dressed in a traditional kimono, the doll is quite exquisite. Its hair was raven black and cut to roughly shoulder length. Keep that in mind. In a traditional Okapa hairstyle, which if you haven't seen the doll,
Sure haven't.
Well, I can't show the doll truly.
We'll
go on to why. Just look up OKAPPA, Okapa hairstyle, so you can see the hairstyle.
Okay.
Her eyes were piercing coals that seemed to swallow everything up in her gaze. The thing was mesmerizing and enchanting, something to take your breath away. Can you imagine your breath being taken away by a doll?
My sister must have it. Take all my money. I don't need a hotel.
Now, Suzuki went back home and gave the doll to his sister. The tyke fell in love with the doll immediately. It transformed into... Can I visit
it sometimes? My breath has been taken away.
Okiku's favorite toy is what it became. And more importantly, her best friend. Okiku played every day with the doll, took it everywhere, and treated the figurine like a little sister. She would talk and prattle with the thing. Fed it,
she's prattling.
Fed it, slept with it. She decided to call the doll Okiku, a mirror duplicate of herself.
Okay, see, that's where
dangerous magic. Yeah,
that's where you get into Robert the Doll territory when you start swapping names and stuff.
Then, a year later, tragedy struck.
Yeah, see,
in 1919, Okiku died. Yellow fever had transcended on the land and rubbed the family of the little girl.
Rubbed them.
This is obviously translated into English. I like the use of the old-timey word for like gangster killing.
Rubbed her out.
Rubbed out the family of the little girl.
Sure.
Okiku died grasping for air, in pain and afraid. The doll held firmly in her grasp.
Oh boy.
She was only 3 years old.
She choked on the doll.
The remaining family wanted to bury the doll along with Okiku, but circumstances and governmental oversight prevented this last act of kindness on their part.
Nah, we've had dolls in the graves in the past, and they always get haunted.
So here's where Okiku enters the shrine situation. Alternatively, Okiku, the doll, was placed in the family's altar. A common practice in certain Japanese households to commemorate the dead. The small shrine celebrated their daughter and marked her passing into the afterlife. And that's when the weirdness started to occur. One day, the family noticed that the doll's hair was getting longer.
You see what you've done. See what you've gone and done.
Once a traditional shoulder-length cut with neat ends, now a mangled mess of split ends reaching down past her waist. It was scruffy, different colors, and felt different. Here's where I will share a little image
The doll
of Okiku. Subscribe to the YouTube so you can see some of this, but it is essentially a doll in a golden lined colored box, and it is wearing a very fancy kimono of sorts with hair definitely longer than the original length of the shoulder.
Yeah.
It seems to be the feature of this shrine.
That's true. This is true.
And that's the religion I am now. One that isn't afraid.
A dollist.
I am now a dollist.
One that isn't afraid to face the darkness.
So the doll's now in the shrine, and now the weirdness occurs.
Yeah.
One day the family started to note, oh, we already did that. Sorry. The hair felt different. It was scruffy. It grew.
Got the weird hair.
At night, they started to dream of Okiku.
See what you've done. See what you've done? Do you see what you've done?
And sometimes the doll would appear by their side in the morning.
Okay. Do you see?
I don't think they see. I don't know. I mean, maybe they do see, and as they are dollist, which is definitely not what they are, but what we're interpreting this scene as, understand its power, and now it's featured. The chilling events intensified and grew into full-blown acts of spiritual infestation.
Wow.
With lights flicking on and off, banging in the house, noises, and strange voices.
I told you kids, no banging in the house.
The closer the year got to certain key dates is when it happened, specifically Okiku's birthday and Halloween. The day of her death.
Okay.
Over time, they were certain the town shamans / spiritual leaders concurred that their daughter's soul was in fact trapped within the doll.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
You done made yourself a Robert.
And now in 1938, the family relocated to a different district. They had by now become accustomed to Okiku and had even grown fond of their daughter's restless spirit. Okay. To them, it was a magical and unique opportunity to interact with the dead.
I mean, that's what it is to me as well.
I mean, honestly, that is probably the best way you could go with it.
However, they did not desire to take Okiku with them, fearing that what fueled her magic was the proximity to their daughter's grave.
Interesting.
The family approached the local temple where she rests now and asked them to take care of the doll.
Look, we love it. We love it. We think it's a magical way to connect with the dead. But what if we left it with you guys? And by it, I mean her, our loving daughter. But we love it.
The temple by now had heard countless stories of the amazing doll, the haunted doll whose hair grew every year. They were fascinated, skipping like schoolgirls with the prospect. The priest gleefully accepted the charge and started taking care of Okiku. Over time, they managed to confirm the veracity of some of the claims, particularly
for Okiku's family, the priests were a bunch of creeps.
But they confirm and feature the fact that the hair does indeed grow. The priests have cut samples of the hair for scientific analysis. They're fucking all about this shit.
Yeah.
They want to get to the bottom of it even. and scientific examination of Okiku proved that the hair was that of a human child.
Huh.
All right.
Now, the hair regularly gets a trim, and the doll stays happy and content.
Huh.
That's all they needed. She just wanted a little spa time.
So is it growing to this day?
It's growing to this fucking day, man.
Would it be possible for hair to grow outside of the body? Say you put it in some kind of substrate where it could continue growing, meat or something.
Well, I mean, yes, exactly. Hair is a dead protein, right? And it's growing from whatever our body does with what we eat and shit, and it produces this hair for various reasons. But it's
meets me.
I believe it is dead cells that is just forming, but it has to come from like the right pores and stuff, it can't just appear anywhere.
You can't just slap it on the wall. You can't have a big fucking a glossy lawn of beautiful locks.
So as the years passed on, the doll's fame grew and her powers further developed. She's bolder now, invading the dreams of the priest and those who come to visit her. She's stronger, her hair growing faster and wilder. And she's even spookier. The last event driving tourists mad with the frightening claim is that the mouth of Okiku is slowly opening, and that if you dare to peer inside, you may be able to glimpse something like baby teeth sprouting like weeds from the porcelain gums.
Weeds.
I like how they ended that. I wasn't expecting a just ghost story ending there. But that's been my segment. Japanese shrines. Wow. I have some more to share with you as well. I'm going to do 2 more next week, and that's going to be my January segments.
Shrine off.
But if you want to go there or are in Japan for whatever reason, Okiku is located in her private shrine on display in a little wooden box in the Maninji Temple in the town of Iwamizawa, Hokkaido, Japan.
Iwamizawa.
Thank you. She's there waiting for all who want to play with fire and have a one-on-one conversation with the paranormal and the bizarre.
Oh, she loves to play with fire, huh?
One more time, that's Okiku Okiku, the doll that puts Chucky to shame.
Wow, pretty spooky. And that, in fact, does it for another episode of Werewolf Radar. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, for listening with us, for freaking out with us, for telling your friends, for giving us 5 stars on iTunes and Spotify and freaking wherever else they let you star us. If you go to the grocery store and they're like, would you like to give Werewolf Radar 5 stars today? Mm-hmm. Just say yeah. It's free. It helps people find the pod, and it makes us grow ever powerful.
Another thing that really helps is going to our YouTube, subscribing, liking, commenting on the videos. But
we're Twitch.
Thank you all the new subscribers on the YouTube. Our videos are getting tens of views now, and we really appreciate that.
Fuck yeah, all 10 of you, you rule.
Tens of videos, Jordan. That's like
20, 30. Fuck out of here.
Some 40, man.
Fucking out. All 40 of you, you kick ass. If you really like what we do, you can go to patreon.com/razor, or not Razor Lou. That's my Twitter handle, /Werewolf Radar. And you can sign up for the Werewolf Radar Patreon, where you get additional content every friggin' week. You get merch, you get all kinds of shit. Go check it out. It rules. Shout out to Chuck from Snappy Little Numbers for our intro and outro song. And shout out to you, the listener, for staying vigilant against the tide of darkness that washes it over the land. Until next time, this is Werewolf Radar, our super not so secret sign-off line on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Punch the sky,
Spaceman Joe.
Joe.